Welcome, fellow Toastmasters. Today, this is the first speech I'm giving out of my persuasive speaking manual. This is one of the advanced manuals, and my topic for today is El-Theme. My title of the day is El-Theme. The end. Virtually every adult in the Western world has one common goal. That is retirement. Retirement is a goal that we all seek in some shape or form, and we all have a different idea of what we want it to look like. This is El-Theme, the end. One book that I've read recently is called, well, not recently, but national bestseller by Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One of the tenets in that book, one of the 7 habits, is begin with the end in mind. And so from that point is which I'm speaking to you today. The end, I like to use this title, the end, as also as an acronym. It's something I use commonly when I speak to people about their personal finances. I ask them, do you know your FIN number? And usually they say, well, what's that? Well, your financial independence number. Well, no. Your financial independence number is a large number depending on your personal goals. It's how much money, how much cash, how large of an asset do you need to accumulate over your lifetime in order to be able to retire and not have to go back to work one day. So usually it's a fairly large number. Do you know your FIN number? So begin with the end in mind. If you're thinking about your FIN number, that large number that you need to accumulate so that you can sit back and relax and live off of the work that you labored through your youth, okay? Let's say you have $1 million. Would you think most people say $1 million sounds pretty good? And so a typical rule of thumb, if you have $1 million, if that's your FIN number, you can pull off about 5% when your retirement starts to pull money away from it. And usually that's going to last you throughout the duration of your life, and you'll have something to leave back to your heirs. So 5% of $1 million is $50,000 a year. How many people would you say probably could get by on $50,000 a year? In America, the average household income is about $50,000. And so I would say most people can get by. Some people are accustomed to a higher quality of life, right? But $50,000 in retirement, most things that's and expenses are paid for. This is very doable. But I want to ask and pose a question: $50,000 a year. Let's say you have 30 years to accumulate this $1 million. So thinking about the time frame, 30 years. If we look back 30 years from today, 30 years ago, since $50,000 a year will be pretty good today, 30 years ago, how well would $50,000 have fared you a year ago? Very well, wouldn't it? Some numbers that I looked up. You know, they say the average house cost of a house in America is about $170,000 today. So 30 years ago, in 1980, the average house value of a home was about $62,000. $50,000 go pretty far. The average automobile today, they say, is about $21,000 cost. So if that's the truth for today, about 30 years ago, 1980, the average cost of a car is $6,200. How well could you have fared 30 years ago with $50,000? Very well. Let's look into the future. This concept that I'm talking about really is inflation. The cost of living increases over time. Over time, inflation has averaged about 3.5%. So you can add prices increase overall by 3.5% per year every year. So 30 years into the future, 2041, how will $50,000 fare you? Anyone? Any ideas? Maybe not as good. Thinking about how the cost of inflation moves, most people will feel $50,000 is not enough. So maybe our goal for $1 million has to be adjusted. How about $2 million? Maybe fare a little better. So thinking about that, thinking about your FIN number, and each and every one of you have different goals. You know, you have either you and your spouse you're planning for, or just yourself. And so finding out what your particular FIN number is I would say is vitally important. You know, begin with in mind. Know where you're going to end up before you get there. So what are your options? One option I like to call is a Mason account. Anybody ever heard of a Mason account? No. Well, you can go to your kitchen cupboard, okay, find a Mason jar, get it up there, okay, pull it down, and you can stash your cash in there. That's your Mason account. Many people like this account because, well, I mean, it's tax-free, absolutely. It is safe and secure, right? You know you can't lose any money in your Mason account. It is there unless someone breaks in, they hear about it and they break in, but that's not going to happen. So we can stash that for the next 30 years and know that it's going to be safe, sound, and it's going to be there. That is the pros. The con is inflation is moving 3.5%. So if you're not getting at least that in your money, then are you getting ahead, or are you falling behind? I would suggest you're falling behind. But in any case, with your Mason account, to accumulate your $2 million over the next 30 years, I ran some numbers, and you'll have to save approximately $66,000 a year for the next 30 years to accumulate that money. Pretty large sum. Let's look at another option. You have your CDs, banks at a bank, a certificate of deposit. Right now, they're averaging about 2%. So if you're getting 2%, it's not as good as inflation. So you're still not quite breaking even there, but it's better growth rate than maybe your Mason account. Okay, so you look at that and you say, how much money would I need to put back into my CD in order to reach my goal of $2 million? Rough number, $49,000 a year. Any takers? Okay. Next option, maybe bonds, fixed annuities. These things that I've mentioned so far, most people like them because they're attractive because they're fairly stable, they're pretty secure, your money's not going to disappear on you. You know, it's going to be there. Fixed annuity, your bonds, average about 5% a year. You're beating your inflation, you're growing. Savings per year, roughly $28,000 to reach your $2 million. My goal today, to just let you know, is not to depress anyone, to let that be known, but just to be an eye opener, because most people don't have not thought about how much it's actually going to take. Last goal I will suggest is what we call mutual funds. Many people shy away from these just because it is in the market, and so it has some volatility, and there is risk of losing some of your money. There are many options, such as the Investment Company of America, that has averaged 12% since the 1930s. It doesn't. When I say average, that means it doesn't get 12% every year, but over the long period, it has averaged 12%. And so this is something that I would suggest doing. That you could, if you have a husband and wife, you can max out both of your IRAs, $5,000 apiece, $10,000 a year, and you will safely reach that goal of $2 million. So when will your someday come? Your someday when you want to retire you will reach that day. Many people say, you know, someday I want to sit back and watch my grandchildren play. Someday I want to just be able to relax. Someday I want to travel more. Someday I don't want to have to work and worry about all the stress of the job. Well, that someday will come, but the question is, will you be prepared for that someday? Mr. Toastmaster. All right.